Um, about the Mayan calendars and the Mayan calendar system, the archaeologists and anthropologists which have studied the Mayan civilization have made huge breakthroughs in understanding the writing, the glyphs, and the the uh, the method of government of the Maya, and they have made lots of assumptions about their calendar and their calendar system. It on the surface looks quite complicated, and we have made new discoveries about the nature of the calendars that clarify all those mysteries that the archaeologists or anthropologists ran into. Um, there were about 18 calendars kept by the Maya. Most of those calendars were planetary cycle calendars. That is, the orbital cycle of Mercury and Jupiter and Venus and Saturn. And yes, they had calendars for every planet. They didn't have telescopes, but they knew that the planets were there. We don't know how, but they had these calendars. And there were, within those 18 calendars, there were 3 calendars that were very, very prominent in their civilization. One, the one that's most understood and talked about, or studied by the archaeologists, was called the Haab calendar. That's H-A-A-B, Haab. And that was the Earth calendar. It was a 365-day calendar, and they made the 1/4 day adjustments every 4 years. So they were running on a 365 and 1/4 day calendar. The Haab, or the civil calendar of the Maya, was based on the agricultural cycles, and it was basically a bookkeeping calendar. It was one for when you were to pay your tribute to the king, and also in business dealings. It was just for bookkeeping. But then there was a sacred calendar, or a sacred calendar system, which is actually 2 calendars working together. That is the Xolkeen calendar and the Toon calendar of the Maya. The Xolkeen calendar is one of personal astrological effects on a person and their lives. It's a day-to-day calendar. And it was used like that for the Maya. And then there was the Toon calendar, which is the divine or prophetic calendar, and it has to do with bigger scopes of creation, or the cycles up and down of consciousness and civilizations. So there was the individual calendar and then the grander calendar. The Xolkeen calendar is a 260-day calendar, and it has a combination of energies and intentions which weave through the calendar. And there are 13 different intentions, and there are 20 different energies or aspects of creation. 13 times 20 is 260. So they weave back and forth, presenting every day with an intention toward creation and a certain energy or aspect of change in the evolution of consciousness. So the Maya followed this calendar daily, every single day. They would know the intent of creation and the energy that was active. They also were very aware of their own personal energy. And the day that they were born on the Xolkeen calendar stated the purpose that they were here. Their intention and the kind of energy that they would use throughout their life to accomplish their goals was the same energy that existed on the day of their birth. It's sort of like, it's a resonant frequency. And if you agree with the frequency, you like it, it's called affinity. You're drawn to certain things or certain people. And when all of reality, all of our conscious reality was vibrating with the same intention and the same energy that you personally possess, you were drawn in to this physical reality. It's sort of like a round peg going through a round hole. And everybody that was born on the same day that you were came in with the same purposes and intentions. In fact, in the ancient Mayan civilization, your first name was the name of the day you were born on the calendar. So it was very, 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 very central to their organization of their whole lives. We don't use the calendar like that. We have special holidays, but these guys, every day was sacred. Then there's the Toon Calendar, which is a 360-day calendar. Not 365 days, 360. And this calendar, as Carl Koloman has discovered, describes the grander scale of event and the circumstances with which consciousness has to work and create. There, in the 360-day period, there are 18 months of 20 days each. That is, each run of the Xolkeen calendar, each complete run of all of the energies of the Mayan calendar, all the aspects of creation, is 1 month on the Toon calendar. So the Xolkeen calendar and the Toon calendar work together. They mesh like two gears. And each one of the months has an intention. And that intention matches up to the numbers 1 through 13. Now there's 18 months. You go through the 13 energies assigned to each one of those months, and then you jump down to the next one. It's energy number 1 again. And it starts running all the way to 13. So there is a constant weave of intention within the months of the Toon calendar. So it's quite a complete and very, very full astrological setup. And I'm sure that a lot of ancient Maya, were in the business of casting fortunes, sort of like they were probably as thick as lawyers back then, and they were there to make money on your future, which is pretty much what lawyers do today too. Humanity. Anyway, the Toon calendar, these 360-day periods stack up, one on top of another, on top of another, on top of another, and as a matter of fact, the Mayan calendar goes back 16.4 billion years worth of these 360-day periods. And as they run, they unfold intentions on the part of creation toward higher and higher states of consciousness, or the evolution of consciousness. And we have mapped these out, and that information is available in a book called Solving the Greatest Mystery of Our Time, the Mayan Calendar. All of the calendars, the 3 calendars here, serve different purposes, but they all worked together to form the Mayan cosmology. Their whole cosmology was around the calendars. And so the civil calendar handled all the books, and the personal calendar handled day-to-day events and who you ought to marry and who you ought not to marry. And then the Toon calendar directed the kings and priests and the advances of civilization. And what we found out was that all civilizations, not just the Mayan civilization, all civilizations on Earth were following the same cycle of up and down. So there is definitely a schedule to all of creation, which is being measured and defined by the Mayan calendars. And this is the real purpose of the Mayan calendar. Most of the archaeologists or anthropologists that have studied the Mayan calendars understood them to be keeping track of time. And this was their biggest mistake. It was natural, of course, it's their orientation to calendars. But what we found is that the Mayan calendar was never keeping track of time. It was not interested in time the way we are. It was measuring the flow, the rate, and the intention of creation itself. And this assisted the public and their consciousness. It held their consciousness more to the actual flow of consciousness rather than the advance of technologies or the gathering of more power. It really worked with nature rather than against nature, as we have come to be doing now. There's something which is very, very individual about every person, and that is their point of view. It's absolutely distinct from one person to the next to the next. Points of view are very, very individual, and points of view have access to more knowing than most people have been led to believe or allowed to believe. There's a thing called intuition, which is your connection to a greater understanding of the universe. Intuition is instant knowing. It's something which you receive it as a gift. And sometimes it just shows up. Sometimes it shows up in times of great need. Intuition is a very, very useful thing. I mean, in ancient times, humanity survived on its intuition. That's how hunters or fishermen were successful. Women have always used intuition to protect the family. Intuition was very, very important up until the Spanish Inquisition, when it was made into a sin. But intuition is your personal connection to all of creation and the knowledge in creation. And how to access that in our society is very difficult. It's either through extensive quiet periods and meditation, or sometimes it's, like I said, in dire circumstances, life or death. Intuition shows up very big then. But how to do it on a daily basis, how to tap into that as a way of life, is fairly difficult for most of us. But we found a solution. We found a way to help people do that, and it is the Mayan calendar. The Mayan calendar system has been tracking the unfolding of all of creation since 16.4 billion years ago, since the Big Bang. So it has been measuring the flow of consciousness. And what anyone pays attention to in their life, what they put their consciousness on, they become conscious of. When you pay attention, you become conscious of that thing. So if there is a way to pay attention to the flow of creation, then what you become aware of or conscious of is that flow, the flow of creation. The flow of creation is the source of all knowing and the source of your intuition. So, by lining your consciousness up with the flow of creation, you receive directly intuition. And that was always the purpose of the Mayan calendar. Never, ever to measure time, but to only orient a person's consciousness to the flow of creation, thus opening the portal of their intuition, so they could lead more calm and much more beneficial lives. And I think that's what everybody wants. We're getting back to the nitty-gritty here of where spirit meets physicality and deals with it. We're wrestling with concepts right now that are going to open our consciousness very, very wide. And we'll need that orientation. So that's why I'm working with the Mayan calendars, to help bring this information forward and have more and more people find this very simple solution and start applying it to their daily lives.